Hello, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another reading vlog where I'm gonna be reading some anticipated book releases. So at the beginning of this year, I posted a video about 20 books I was and am excited for that are coming out this year, and I haven't really been reading them. Most of them, like before this month started, there were like 9 books out of that list, and I had only read 2. So I decided that this month I was actually, gonna read the books that come out this month and make a video to make me more accountable. Because I want to read them, but also there are so many books that were released in previous years that I want to read that I'm not prioritizing my anticipated releases. But I am finally reading 3 of them that came out this month, and we have a horror book, a fantasy book, and a science fiction book. And obviously I was very excited to read all of them, and I just want to say that there are no spoilers in this reading vlog, and yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so I have finished This Skin Was Once Mine and Other Disturbances. I thought about updating halfway through, but since this is the book itself in general is short, but also it has short stories, so I can't really talk much in depth about any of them. So I decided to just read the whole thing and then tell you about it. And so this is a horror short story collection, and it has 4 short stories, and they're all centered around toxic relationships, and those relationships are romantic, others are between family members, other are between friends. The first one is the one that gave the book the title, so it's The Skin Was Once Mine. And in this one we're following Jillian, and she gets the news that her father has died under kind of mysterious circumstances, and she goes back to her home, where she grew up, but 20 years ago she was her mom said that she didn't want her there anymore, and so she hasn't been there in 20 years, and she doesn't like her mom because her mom didn't want her, so there's that. And when she gets there, some secrets are revealed about her mom, about her dad, about other people in the house, and we see what Jillian does about that. And this one was so disturbing, and the end was so good, and I loved it. And then the second one is called Seedling, and in this one we're following a guy whose name I don't remember, but in this case it was his dad that called him to let him know that his mother had died. And he goes back home and he goes to meet his dad, and his mom's body is still in there, and then he notices a wound on him, and that his dad has a similar one, and there are black threads in the wounds. And this one was very disgusting, very also disturbing, and I also really like this one, not as much as the first, but I also still really enjoy this one. And then the third was my favorite, and it's called All the Parts of You That Won't Easily Burn. That is a long title. And in this one we're following a man called Enoch. I don't know if that is how you say his name, but it's Enoch. And he goes to a shop to buy a carving knife for his husband because they were going to have a dinner at their house. And so he wants to offer a knife to his husband because he's the one that cooks and does everything. So he wants to at least contribute with a knife. And he goes to that shop, and the shopkeeper, like, he asks for a weird payment. And then after that, that gives Enoch an obsession, like a weird obsession. And this one, once again, very disturbing, very also like uncomfortable, but like the kind of uncomfortable I want to feel when I'm reading a horror book, and unsettling. And this one, yeah, I love the vibe of this one so much. Like, it was so like uncomfortable in the best way possible. And then the last one was the shortest, and it was called Prickle. And in this one, we're following two men who, every time like they get together, they play a kind of sadistic game on other people. And like, I didn't love this one. I felt like it was just, evil for no reason, like people just being mean for no reason. And I mean, you could argue that about every single one of these stories, but the others, like, they had a vibe that I enjoyed, and this one did not have the vibe for me. So I didn't really care. I was just like, why are you being mean to those random people for no reason? You know? So I mean, I didn't hate it, but I definitely didn't love it either. And so the first story I gave 4.5 stars to, the second I gave 4, the third I gave 5 because I absolutely loved everything about it. And this one, the last, I gave 3. And if I do like the average of those ratings, I get 4.125. And I was already thinking of giving it 4 stars, so I guess that just solidifies my rating, and I am giving it 4 stars. And the 2 short stories that I liked the most were the longest, so I'm very glad that I loved the 2 longest short stories, and the one that I liked the least was the shortest. So I mean, that worked out fine for me, and overall I really enjoyed this book. And now going on into our next book, which is The Familiar, which is fantasy and historical fiction, I'm pretty sure. And this one is like definitely a longer book, so I will almost surely update you halfway through. Okay, so I am 50% into The Familiar, and the story is set in Madrid in the, I think, 16th century. And you are following Lucia, and she works as a scullion, and like she uses a bit of magic to help her get through the day. But one day, her mistress sees that she has magic, and so she wants to use Lucia to like perform using her magic to help her family's like social status. And in one of those performances, there is a man called Antonio Perez, and he used to be the king's secretary. And he wants to regain the king's favor, so he decides to take Lucia to be part of a competition. And in that competition, she is being helped by a man who kind of works for Antonio Perez, and we learn like how that came to be later. But he is immortal, and he's called Santangel, and like I said, he's immortal, and he tells Lucia that he is a familiar. And at first I was like, okay, sure, whatever that means. Like, yes, that's the title of the book, but sure. But yeah, basically, he's immortal. That's what we needed to know. But Santangel is working with Lucia to help her like with the magic and the competition and all of that. And Lucia also has to like hide her heritage, because if people found out, she would be in a lot of trouble. And obviously I was excited for this book because it was one of my anticipated releases, but I was like very cautiously excited because yes, it is fantasy, but it's also historical. And I don't usually like historical books because I mean honestly I don't know why. I just know that it never like grips my attention and I just never really like the vibe that much. And that is definitely happening here. Like I like the characters. I really like Lucia and I also like Santangel, but I mean I don't like them as a couple because I'm pretty sure that's what the romance is gonna be here. I don't care about them as a couple. Like I don't hate it, but also I don't care. But I like them individually, like as characters, as people. I like them, and I am like interested in the story and the magic. But like it's definitely not gripping me. Like I said, like I am interested, but also like if I stopped reading and didn't pick it back up again, like I wouldn't be upset. You know, like it's not like I feel like I need to know how it's gonna end up, like what is gonna happen. So yeah, I'm liking it, but I'm not loving it. It's feeling like a 3 stars maybe. Like it's okay, but I was hoping it would be more than okay. But I still have half of the book to go, so I will read a half and I will be back with my final thoughts on this book. Okay, so I have finished The Familiar, and honestly, unfortunately, my thoughts have pretty much remained the same. And like, I continue to enjoy it, but not love it. And yeah, I don't know what it is about historicals, but it just doesn't, like, the vibe is not my thing. Even though, like, most fantasy books are like set in like sort of a historical setting, set in a setting, sure. um I don't know, when it's like in like the real world in the past, I just, it's not my vibe. I don't know why. Like I can't really tell exactly what it is about it, like why I don't like it, what doesn't work for me, but it just doesn't. And yeah, like my thoughts, like I said, remain the same. Like I like the characters, didn't care about the romance. I was interested in the plot, kind of, but the vibe, like the whole setting, it wasn't, you know, capturing my attention like I wanted it to. Honestly, like I was a little bored, which is really sad. Like that is the worst feeling to have in a book. Sometimes I would rather hate it than be bored. You know, like obviously the rating would be lower, but at least I would be feeling something, you know? But yeah, I feel like this is definitely a me problem because I don't like historical books. So, like, if you do, you might really like this book. Like, I've seen really high ratings for this book. So, I feel like it's definitely a me problem. Like, I can see why other people love it. It just didn't work for me. And I think I am gonna end up giving it 3 stars, which I am sad about. But, like I said, I was always kind of like not fully knowing if I'd love it because it was a historical book. But anyway, that's that. And moving on to our next book, which is Ghost Station, which is sci-fi horror, which I'm very excited for. And I think this is a standalone, like I'm pretty sure, but I also think that this book is set in the same universe of like the other book I read from this author, which was also like sci-fi horror, and I loved. They had like such creepy, unsettling moments and just a very like unsettling vibe overall that I absolutely loved. So I hope this one has that same vibe because that is, I mean, that's what I want from it. So I'm gonna read it like half-ish of it and I'll be back. Okay, so I am 53% into Ghost Station, and we're following Ophelia, who is a psychologist, and she specializes on the study of ERS, which is a like space-based condition that has been responsible for the murders of 29 people because basically that happens because humans, were not made to be living out in space, and it just messes with their brains. It messes up their circadian rhythms, and they just become like violent, and they have sort of visions. And yeah, it has resulted in murders, and she's studying that, and she's assigned to a exploration team, and they are going out to a like abandoned planet, and they're going to be like studying the planet and studying the beings that lived there before. And they don't want Ophelia there because they just feel like they don't need a psychologist there, but she, was assigned to that team and is determined to help. And Ophelia's family is like kind of famous, not for the best reasons. And also, we know that there are like still some secrets that she's hiding. And like, there have been maybe like two scenes where I was like, okay, this is kind of weird, creepy ish. But then they were like explained in 5 seconds, and it was actually a logical explanation, and so it wasn't actually anything scary or creepy. So, yeah, nothing really is happening that is feeling like this is a horror book. Nothing is, actually like making me feel uncomfortable or unsettled like it was in the other book I read from this author. And also, I don't like the main character. I don't like her at all. She is kind of annoying, and I'm not loving it. And also, like, the whole thing is that, like, these weird things that are happening, and I'm guessing there will be weirder things happening because this was really nothing. They will make her think that she might be having ERS, and see how she and the others have to deal with that. But, like, yeah, I don't really like her. I don't particularly like the other characters, but also I don't really know them enough. And yeah, like, so far, the plot isn't really plotting because, like I said, what is in the premise of the book is that she will start thinking that she has ERS. But so far, the only things that have happened is just Ophelia being kind of annoying and the other members of the team being against her presence. And like, I'm only 53% in, but it's already been so repetitive. So I'm not having a good time. I'm not I'm not loving it. I'm not even liking it. So yeah, there's there's that, but I'm gonna finish it, and I'll tell you what I think of the second half. Okay, so I finished the book, and the issues that I was having with it, like, they mostly continued because I didn't ever really like the main character, and I just feel like, honestly, it wasn't even a horror book. It was like more of a thriller, but not a good one. And there was something that was in the synopsis of the book, and it only happened 60% in. And it was something like, it was a big spoiler, and I kept waiting for it to happen because I had read the synopsis, and I kept waiting for it to happen, and it only happened 60% into the book. And I don't like that because, I mean, at that point it is a spoiler. So that was also that. And I mean, I do have to say that I like the maybe last third, maybe less than a third more, because I liked the like reveal of what was happening, and after that things were actually kind of exciting. So I did like I think it was less than a third, but that last section. So definitely like the ending more than the rest of the book. And I mean, made me like the book more as a whole, but like overall it was just okay. And I'm also giving this one 3 stars. And yeah, this didn't exactly go, as well as I hoped it would or as I expected it would, because having 2 3-star books out of my anticipated releases wasn't really, again, what I was expecting. But I mean, I didn't like actually really dislike any of the books. They were just okay, and I really liked the horror one, the first one I read. So I would say it was still successful, and I mean, it was especially successful in the fact that I did finally get to my anticipated releases. So yeah, I would say overall it's still successful, but I wish I would have loved especially these last 2 books more than I did. But yeah, that is everything for this video. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you have enjoyed it, and if you did, give it a like and subscribe, and I will talk to you next time. Bye!